got a chance to meet Angle of Attack Chris Palmer at AirVenture on this episode of Taking Off. Hey everyone, Dan Milliken here. This episode is brought to you by Gold Seal, which is groundschool.com, and Wingfield Aviation. We're continuing our daily reporting from AirVenture. And what I'm told is one of the great things about AirVenture is being able to meet new people. And I got to do that by catching up with Angle of Attack's Chris Palmer. Chris, how did you get started in aviation?
I'm first generation aviation. So,
First generation.
Yeah, so that means I didn't have any family or anything that did it.
I know that feeling.
Come to find out, my grandfather did, but he gave it up fairly early when my mom was a kid, and they didn't have it in their family growing up, but maybe it was in my blood. I grew up building model airplanes, so I'd build World War II model airplanes while I'd watch World War II documentaries on the Discovery Channel, which was kind of becoming a thing at the time. And just had a really good time doing that. Was always interested in aviation, had an approach path over our house, so I heard jets all the time.
And where were you growing up?
I was in Salt Lake City at that time.
Salt Lake City, okay.
Yeah, I was born in Anchorage, but I grew up in Salt Lake City. So went for a flight with my dad when I was 12. He was in real estate, and his friend invited us to fly in his small plane, which I'm guessing was a 172, and flew to a property and looked at it. And so I got that little taste of it, but just these little touches over the years, aviation really intrigued me. So, as a teenager, they start to talk about careers and things, what to do next. And I was really interested in the military. I think I actually probably would have gone military aviation route, but I was disqualified for medical reasons pretty early. The recruiters told me there was no way, and so I kind of gave up on that. Didn't really know what to do, and one day my cousin told me, hey, he was 4 years older than me, hey, I'm doing a professional pilot at school, at university, and my light bulbs went off.
Like, that's a thing?
Yeah, like you can actually just pay to do this. You don't have to go through the military. So it was over from that second. I ended up applying for concurrent college classes, so I did ground school my senior year of high school. Got my first license at 18, my private pilot at that university, or a university, not particular that university. And it was all downhill from there. I've added my licenses over the years, but that's how I got started.
Wow. Okay. What took you from then Salt Lake City back to Alaska?
So we left Anchorage when I was 1. So really, I mean, Utah was home.
Right.
But I just had family that was always talking about the stories there, the encounters with moose and the wildness of the area. So ended up visiting when I was 19, both 19 and 25, so 2 different vacations. And the second one, I was just at a place in my life, I was 25, and the city was getting too big. And it life was just not very meaningful, so I just felt like Alaska was much more my style, much more who I was. And because I had a business at the time, I could go anywhere. I decided that it was Homer, which is a small town on the coast.
Wow. And that's where you're at now?
It is.
You said you had your own business. Was it aviation related?
Yeah, so originally when I started Angle of Attack, I was doing flight simulation training. So I would there was some very high fidelity, like 747s, 737s, and we would take the manuals, deduce them down into some fun videos that people could actually learn some technical stuff, and we sold those all over the world. So it was a good time doing that.
Wow. Okay, so then you just relocated that to
Thanks, Rose.
Relocated that to Homer.
Yeah, so I could be anywhere because it was an internet business. So
right.
I said, hey, do they have high-speed internet? Is the view amazing? What's the town like? And so that's where I decided to go.
All right, so watching your videos, you've got a 172 with big fat tires. Why not do a tail dragger? And tell me the story of getting that 172.
Yeah, it's actually just kind of serendipitous. So my neighbor came to me one time, like 3 days before Christmas, and he's like, hey Chris, I want to go look at this airplane and potentially buy it. He wasn't a pilot at the time. And I'm like, I can't really help out. I got some commitments tonight. He comes back that night and says, I bought the airplane. I'm like, That's not really how it works. Like, you have to go through some due diligence on this sort of thing.
Chew on it, research it.
Right. But he trusted this guy, and so he took the leap. So it was that airplane that I ended up teaching him in that I leased for my flight school for 3 to 4 years. That is 2-3 uniform, the plane that I bought. So
it just kind of fell into it. It's not that you went out looking for a tricycle gear plane for the Alaskan bush.
Correct, exactly. And I wouldn't even call that a bush plane. It has some very bush plane looking tires,
right, yes.
But it's got an underpowered engine, so it can't do too much.
You are known one thing in particular. Where did clear come from?
It actually happened just before Josh Flowers came to Alaska. So I was with a student, and they gave a really weak clear prop. You know?
Right.
And it's actually fairly common. Yeah, clear prop. That's not doing anyone any good. So in a moment of, I don't know, genius, I don't know what you want to call it, I opened the door, cracked it open, and just let it loose. And scared them, and we had a good laugh. And so that was like a week before Josh got there, and so when he got there, I let it loose on him too. And
a legend was born.
And a legend was born, and now everywhere I go, I am asked.
People want you to do that.
Yes.
It's become your calling card.
I know, it's what I'm known for.
I know.
And here it's kind of scary. Like, if I'm on a golf cart, the person will see me, and then they have kind of a gap of recognition, like, is that really him? And then when they're right next to me, they scream clear. So I've been frightened many times at AirVenture this time.
So it's working?
It's working, yes. The good gospel is spreading all over aviation.
What's the difference between training people to fly in Alaska, GA, versus training to fly them in Utah?
I don't think there's much of a difference really anywhere. I think it comes down to the instructor. We do have some particular challenges. Obviously, we have a lot of terrain. We've got a lot of weather to contend with. If you ever look at the charts in Alaska for weather versus the charts that are available in the lower 48, you'd be astounded at what we don't have. We have very little coverage of icing and...
Oh, really?
And yeah, it's a big blob on this low resolution, graphic.
It's there.
It's there. It's kind of just everywhere. Whereas in the lower 48, you get it at different levels. You get the severity density, and we don't have that. So there are a lot of challenges in Alaska weather-wise, and I think that's probably the biggest thing. Terrain is a thing. Being remote is a thing. So you need to think a lot more about search and rescue, being found, survival gear. And I'm big about stick and rudder. So in the very beginning of my training, the first 5 hours with a student, it's all, hey, this is how you fly an airplane and fly it well. And we hash that out until they really understand that. Then we start to bring on things like communications. But that's more of my style, right? But I feel like in Alaska, with the short strips and the trees and all the things we have, energy management is very important when learning to fly. So I hit it early. I make it the primacy thing that we talk about, and then that carries throughout.
What's in your survival kit in your plane?
So, believe it or not, there's actually a law, an Alaska law, that is in our chart supplement. If you look at the Alaska chart supplement, it says what you should have. Now, admittedly, I do not follow that to the T because it hasn't been updated in many years. It has things like a wool blanket and a hatchet. The more I actually think about the list that they have, the more wisdom I think there is in it. Wool doesn't get cold when it gets wet, so there's that. A hatchet, there is actually good reason to want a hatchet to build a shelter. So I see the wisdom in all of those things. And just recently, there was another one, snowshoes, and I never thought that was an important thing, but I actually got kind of marooned on a lake alone, and the only thing I had was snowshoes. And if I didn't have those snowshoes, I would have been in big trouble. It's kind of this mix-up of we were contending with something called overflow with ski flying, and they had to leave me behind because the plane could not take off with me in it. We couldn't take off with two pilots. So, yeah, I had snowshoes, and so I'm thinking more about that now. But I do have a kit in my plane now, and it's a big kit. It's a heavy kit, so I don't have as much useful load in my eyes because of that, but it's permanently there.
When you're not training, teaching, what's your favorite type of flying up there?
So
flying for fun.
I I'm really starting to enjoy flying with my family. I'm not the type of person that really likes to go out alone and fly. I don't get a lot out of that. I like sharing it with people. So my boys are 4 and 2.
Oh, wow.
And there's not a lot we can do yet.
Right.
You know, we can't take 4-hour cross countries.
No.
We can't fly in weather really and turbulence. Like, I'm careful what we're doing, but those memories just stand out as some of the best recent memories that I've had. And honestly, I just enjoy flying with people, flying to new places, and exploring Alaska. It's such a big place that even I, after 11 years of living there, I'm still exploring all the different spots and different things. So I'm really enjoying it, and still, like this summer, it's flown by already, and I haven't done the things I wanted to do, you know? So some of those are gonna have to be put off until next year.
What do you do in the dark, cold winter?
Well, before my hangar changed everything. But before my hangar, it was really tricky because really you'd have snow and ice on your plane all the time. So we're in a fairly temperate location because of the warm ocean current. So our issue in town and at our airport is we will bounce between freezing and just above freezing. So it'll melt a little bit, freeze a little bit, melt a little bit, freeze a little bit, and then we get this
almost like a black ice, yeah,
on our plane. Now, there's a company that makes these fantastic wing covers, and those help, but still, it's a 3 to 4 hour pre-flight prep for your airplane, which just takes forever. It takes the fun out of it. Once you do that, then you know your daylight hours are reduced anyway. So you're talking about one flight a day, and that's all. That's been rough for a long time.
But now you have a hangar.
Paid my dues, and so now I have a hangar, and the hangar is a game changer. So it's, you know, in-floor heating, overhead heating, it's enclosed, it's insulated. I have my office there, I have my studio there, obviously the airplane is in there. So now I can just pull it right out all year long. The problem I'm facing now is we pull the airplane out, the tires are nice and warm, it melts the ice out on the ramp, and then the ice freezes again. And then when we go to break away with power, we actually have to add a lot more power to break away from the ice.
Oh, it freezes the tires.
It freezes the tires to the ground again. Yeah.
Wow. What do you see as the biggest safety problem for GA pilots today?
Well, there was this recent ruling from the FAA on experimental instructors.
Right.
And you know, in the instructor community, I think people are very aware of it, but my issue is where that's headed. And what we need is more accessibility to training, not less. And I was excited about the direction that the FAA was going with making experimentals more accessible and getting closer to a certified sort of pathway, you know what I mean?
Is this a big reversal with their new LOTA requirement for?
Yeah, I'm just concerned, you know, we have kind of a pathway of what that means now, but I'm concerned about what that means in the future for people. Yeah. So I think people should be training more. Obviously, we have the biennial flight review that people do, actually just the flight review it's called.
Yeah.
And
say no to biennial.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, the recency of experience for carrying passengers, and then you've got your instrument experience as well. Those are all bare minimum. I think people need to be flying more. I'd like it to be more accessible. I'd like people to try different things. You know, I learn many things from flying tailwheel, from flying skis, from flying floats that I take to my 172 with big draggy tires, bush wheels, you know. So I think that having a variety and different looks from different instructors will help people out a lot. I'm not sure there's anything glaring right now from a safety standpoint. It seems like the accidents that we've always had, we keep having. I'm not sure I have an answer for that. Why are we having loss of control on base to final? I think people have kind of exhausted the options there. Why are we doing VMC and the IMC? It keeps happening. I don't have a reason for it, but you know, I just think that training needs to be more accessible, and I'm a little bit concerned about the direction the FAA is going in that sense.
Yeah, I am too. Okay, the last question I have for you. You've got a really nice channel, really good following, a lot of fans out there. What's something your fans don't know about Chris Palmer?
Oh, man. they probably don't know that I'm just a regular guy. I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe that's why they like me. But just being here at AirVenture, I've met so many people that enjoy my channel, enjoy what I do. And I do it a little bit differently than others, even Josh, in that I involve my family and
more lifestyle.
Right. And I told my wife that several years ago when we were having kids that, hey, if I'm gonna go this direction and really take the flight school stuff seriously, the YouTube stuff seriously, all these things, you know, we're gonna be an aviation family. That's just gonna be what we do. And
she's on board.
She is totally on board with that. Now we're in a little bit of a weird phase because our boys are 4 and 2, so it's a little bit tricky. They're gonna come next year. I'm gonna try to figure out how to make that happen. I wanted the oldest to come this year and couldn't make it work. But I think what people don't realize about me, or maybe they do, maybe it's a dichotomy, is that I'm just a regular guy. I have a little flight school in Homer, Alaska. I share content online because I like to create stuff as well. And I'm just one of the guys. I like to come here to Oshkosh. I like to see all the planes fly around. I love to meet people. I love to get an ice cream and camp out in the shade and watch the P-51s fly by. So, yeah, we're all just regular
Your fans
people.
would not know that about you.
I know.
You want to get ice cream and sit and watch P-51s.
Absolutely, and I took a nap yesterday and got sunburnt. So
yeah,
you know,
I noticed you got
I'm just one of the guys. That's just how it is. So.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on and taking some time at busy Oshkosh to talk with us.
Absolutely, and thank you for your channel. You guys are doing a great job. I appreciate the diversity of subjects and things that you try to tackle. I really enjoy the content. So.
Well, good.
Keep it up.
All right. I thought you were going to say, I really enjoy your channel, just plain silly. It's great. It's
No.
No.
Not that guy.
Not that guy.
Please, no.